Simba Nail Art Tutorial using Shrinky Dinks by Hotpinkzebrapolish. Hi everyone! In today's video I'm going to be showing you the second video in my Shrinky Dinks series, and this one is going to be a Simba design for the Lion King. So it says Lion above it, and tomorrow's video is going to be Timon and Pumbaa, and that one says King. But for today's it's Simba, and it's Shrinky Dink. All this is hand drawn, which the cool thing about doing these is that you can hand draw something, you can erase, you can use a pencil, you can use colored pencils or markers or whatever you like, and you can draw it on a bigger scale than on a nail. So if you were somebody that is really good at drawing and you love to doodle and all of that, but getting it down to that nail size, because it's just so small to work on, so it's such a small space, this might be a kind of a fun new way or a new thing to kind of look at for you. And I love the way that this turned out, and it does also go with a pair of shoes I recently painted, and that video will be on my art channel today, so I'll put a link to that in the description box below, so check that out as well, and I will see you in my next video. Bye! So these are the Shrinky Dinks. These are called Rough and Ready frosted ones. So there's frosted ones and there's ones that are just kind of shiny, and those ones you can't use any colored pencils on. So I went with the ones that have that frosty quality so that you can draw on them easier. So I'm just gonna take out one piece, and this is what it is. This is what you're gonna use. You're gonna draw on the rough side, not on the shiny side. So now I'm just going to measure my nails. I have a little notepad. I'm grabbing my little tape measure and measuring it. It's about 1/2 inch or so wide. So I'm gonna write that down, and then you multiply it by 3. So that makes it 1.5 inches. And then I'm just gonna measure approximately how long I want the nail to be. So I decided about 1.25 inches in length was good. So that makes it 3 3/4 inches. So you just do the math there, which is fun. I like math. I've always liked math. Anyways, then on your little Shrinky Dink paper or whatever material, whatever you want to call it, you're going to measure out your little rectangle from the measurements you have. So for me, it's going to be that 1.5 inches by 3 3/4 inches, and just make a rectangle or whatever, whatever your shape ends up being. And I didn't grab something that's a bit stiffer like a ruler. I still have just this soft little measuring tape, so it's a little funky to measure it out, but it works. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just making those straight lines gets a little strange when you're using measuring tape like this, but you work with it. So anyways, after you have that done, then you're going to want to round off the top of it to make it sort of match your cuticle area. So you're just going to tie just with, when you're sketching something like this, don't try to sketch from your fingers. Either go from your wrist, depending on the size, or if it's something bigger, go from your elbow to sketch. You're going to get much better lines. And then I'm also going to make this kind of an almond shape. So I'm going to draw that out as well in the bottom section of it, and then erase my extra lines just so I don't have those on my Shrinky Dink page, just to get rid of them so they're not wasting the space. And as you can see, it erases so easy on this material, just kind of goes bye-bye. So then after you have this, the fun step is you get to start sketching out your design. So as you can see, I have a picture of Simba up on my phone, and I'm just going to go ahead and start sketching him out. Now you can start wherever you like. You can do this however you like. You can do this for whatever. You don't have to just do Simba. I mean, you can sketch smiley faces across the entire thing if that's what you're going for. But if you're going to go and take the time to do this, make it something that's fun. Don't just do something that you could do on a nail because you have the space for it. So don't do something simple like polka dots. If you're going to take the time to actually do this, make it something amazing and extravagant and have fun with it and take your time. Like doing full characters from The Lion King, which is what I don't know. I had a blast doing this. I love The Lion King. It's one of my absolute favorite movies. In fact, my chameleon is named after Rafiki. His name is Rafiki, but we usually call him Mr. Raf. Anyways, so now I have my Simba sketched out, and then I'm going to practice writing lion backwards. And as you can see, after I have this, I messed it up. My N was still forwards as I was practicing this out. So just look at it, write it forwards, and then write it backwards, and make sure that every letter is flipped. And then go ahead and write lion above that. So I just have a little underline line to help me out. And as I was doing this, I was looking at it and I'm like, wait a second. That is forwards. What am I thinking? And I reversed it. So sometimes you just have one of those, I don't know, I like to call them blonde moments, even though I don't really consider myself blonde. But yeah, whatever. Senior moments, whatever you want to call it. Anyways, brain farts. So you can cut out your Shrinky Dink just so that you don't color on the other area. You can just sort of save it better. So I'm just going to cut it out, make sure I got that nice shape, and try to keep it as rounded as you can. You can't always file it, as you will see later on. I did file it a lot, but the less filing, the better. So now I'm going to start out with a Sharpie, and I'm going to do anything that's really dark. So I'm going to start out by Sharpieing over my lion. So I am just taking, and this is one of those really fine point Sharpies, the ultra fine ones I think is what they're called. And I'm going to go over that. And if your lines look like they're a little bit thick, like I think that when I was first doing this, I think, man, my some of my letters just look a little bit, on the thinner areas, looked a little too thick for me. Once they shrink down, they're so skinny, you will never think that. It's just funny because it's that 3 times smaller is such a huge amount that it doesn't even really look like it as you're doing this. You're like, man, this isn't even that big still, but it's pretty big. And I'm also going to do some details around the eyes and the nostrils and just some of my outlines and whiskers and things like that I also want to be really intense and really dark. So I'm going to start with that area first, because you are going to, the part that you're going to see when you're done with this is you flip it over and that's the area you see. So you don't see this is the underside. So you kind of have to build it up backwards, which is a little bit strange. So you just have to kind of keep that in mind as you're doing this. So then I'm going to go through and I'm going to kind of do some outlines. I did fill in his cheeks and chin area first with a pale yellow, but then I'm going to do some outlines and kind of work the same way, sort of start at the back and build my way up forward. So kind of do the opposite of the way that you would normally paint something. So normally I would start with all the lighter areas and kind of start with the background and then work my way towards the foreground and the outlines and the things that are on top. This is the opposite. You start with the stuff that's in the back and then you work your way towards the foreground. So just, keep that in mind. It is easier though, since this is not something that has a lot of different depth and a lot of different layers. So you don't have to worry too much about making those separate sections, in a certain order. You can kind of do as you like. The colored pencils that I am using are Prismacolor colored pencils. They're the artist soft ones. I don't know exactly what they're called. But anyways, I use them for illustrating and they worked really well for this, but you don't need to use something like that. You can definitely use Crayola kids colored pencils and it's going to turn out marvelously. The really good thing about the Shrinky Dinks is as it shrinks down, obviously things get smaller, so any imperfections aren't nearly as noticeable as they are when they're bigger. In fact, they pretty much just disappear, which helps out a ton. The other thing is colors get way more intense. So that's the one disadvantage of using something like a Crayola colored pencil or something that's not quite as soft and rich, is that you can't get the color payoff as you would with a more expensive colored pencil like the ones I'm using. But then again, with the Shrinky Dinks, you don't really need to worry about that because the colors are going to intensify and brighten and deepen as soon as they're shrunk. So you don't have to worry about using any fancy anything. And you can also use, markers. Pretty much markers and colored pencils are what you want to stick to. If you use something like a crayon, it's going to get really messed up because crayons melt in the oven and that just does not work so well. But anything in the marker pencil category works fabulously. So then after I have my Simba done, I'm actually taking a blue highlighter and I'm going to do the background. The reason I'm using a highlighter is because it won't mess up any of the drawing. And then as soon as it's baked, which as I just did, then the color intensifies and you can't really tell that it was sheer to start with. So then after it's baked, immediately wrap it around a nail tip or something. One of those C-curve formers that you put in with a form, those little dowel looking things would be amazing for this. But quickly bend it around something to give it that C-curve. And if it gets messed up and you don't have the curve right the first time, you can re-throw it in the oven and then take it back out. So just keep that in mind if you have more than one chance if it doesn't get the right curve immediately. After it's got that curve and it's hardened, which is so quick because these things get hard fast, file the edges so that it's a little thinner around the cuticle area and the sidewalls. And then after you have that done, go ahead and glue that onto your nail or to a nail tip, and then just kind of blend out the cuticle area and add a layer of clear builder gel over the top of it to add just a little bit of strength and build up your nail structure if you need to. However, these Shrinky Dinks are so strong, the plastic itself, that you don't have to worry about that too much. After that's cured, flip it over, fill in the underside with some more of the clear gel and that little gap if there is one. Apply gel sealer and cure it so you don't have to worry about filing it or anything. And then flip that back over, file the top of it a little bit if you need to, and then apply a row of rhinestones around the cuticle area. Since you can't get it right up to the cuticle, it almost looks like it's a bit grown out. So just cover up that area with some rhinestones. I use some funky ones that just are just a little bit more fun, like one has an orange circle around it and different things. And I also applied one at the tip of the nail as well. Then apply a layer of gel sealer and you are all done. One quick thing I forgot to mention earlier is after it's baked and you're forming it around the nail, make sure you're doing the shiny side up so that your line gets reversed back to the correct way. And that is it. Like I said, these Shrinky Dink nails are so, I don't know where I got this idea, but I absolutely love it and I've had so much fun making them. Please share any recreations with me on Facebook or Instagram and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!